All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to more Black Desert. My name is John, and today I wanted to talk about life skills and grinding. So, as a new player starting this game, you're probably wondering what is all of this about. And in this game, it's a sandbox. So basically, that means there is no real end game. Your end game goals are doing whatever you want to do. And unlike traditional MMOs where you just get max level, do the end game dungeons, raids, and everything, and then get the best gear, and then quit till the next expansion. The game works a little bit differently in here, and what I wanted to talk about are the two routes or the two primary ways people go about progression in this game. So there's grinding, which is basically the good old standard of any RPG game in general. Basically, you kill enemies, try different grind spots, get loot, get your gear that way. And then there's life skills, which are basically all of these things. So, like, in every game, they have some sort of gathering, fishing, cooking. That's pretty standard. However, in this game, the way that they make it actually meaningful is how you go about progressing. And usually in the other games, you just do it because you get an achievement or it's fun. This way, so there's two different kinds of gear as well. One for your PvE and PvP, and then life skilling gear. So it's actually eye-opening to see how much of a difference it actually is, and you're not just doing it for the sake of like an achievement, and sometimes that could be tedious to people. And trust me, I've played a lot of MMOs, I understand. And so what I wanted to talk about is which ones I think are easy to do as a beginner, how to go about doing it, and just generally my thoughts and opinions after playing this game for many years. What should you do? So actually, first, let's talk about the whole grinding one, because I think everyone already knows the basics of it, and I wanted to show you how I go about doing it. So we've talked about this before. If you are a new player, the way they get you into the game is basically doing quests, killing enemies, and just basically kill X amount of enemies, turn into quests, basically the same thing, but this time you grind for hours and hours, get silver and everything. So it's not a secret that for most players, I would say about like 95% of players, grinding will always make you more silver an hour, which is the currency of this game, obviously. And for the most part, the route of grinding is going to help you get progressed faster. And I would say how you make your silver in this game is irrelevant, because at the end of the day, you can do basically everything. You can life skill for PvE or PvP gear, and you can also grind for life skill gear, if that makes sense, if you can just buy everything on the market. So how you go about doing it, let's start talking about the grind route and what are the benefits of doing this and things I would recommend. So when you're going to grind in an area, what I would talk or do is look at this monster zone info. You basically just find the little tab and then click on it, and you could sort by AP or just like the region and everything. And so wherever spot you're, or like whatever gear you have, you can actually just find some spots that might be interesting for you, and it'll tell you a recommended for your gear score, which is AP, DP, and all that stuff, right? So I have a video of this before, so we're not going to talk about it too much on what I think of all the grind spots. I'll actually leave a link in the description if you're curious. But I think that most of these grind spots are pretty accurate in terms of should you grind there, and like the recommended stats that you need is pretty good. So yeah, in that video I talk about what are all the good grind spots for the most silver an hour, the best XP an hour, and best places to go for various things using like agris, treasure items, and everything. So watch that video if you're curious. And so I talked about, or I just mentioned that grinding is always going to be more silver an hour for about like 95% of people. And ultimately, I would recommend just finding a spot you like, and then if you're going for a special objective, like let's say, I don't know, I'm already on this tab, so If you're going for like the archaeologist map and you want to look at various things in particular, do that. But if we're talking about like 1 hour of grinding versus 1 hour of life skilling, generally grinding in most spots at a competitive gear score is going to be more. So that's the grind route. I think that's how you would basically summarize it to a new player, what grinding is and what this is. A little bit off topic, but it's like when new players join this game and you're trying to explain it in a way of what you do, it's actually very difficult because I've tried to explain BDO to my friends who have never played this game, and it's actually difficult because when you hear terms like grinding, RNG, enhancing, and all that stuff, guess what doesn't turn anyone on in the game more than those things? And you guys know, anyone who's played this game knows that basically that's what this game is. Obviously, it's not exactly like black and white like that, but generally it is. But in a way of, you grind hundreds or thousands of hours, you get some gear, maybe you blow up your gear, do it again. So there's no just like rushing to max level, doing the end game raids and everything. So it's a little bit different. And now let's talk about the life skills in this game. And I'll do my best to try to compare it to other games that I've played. For example, maybe like Final Fantasy or RuneScape is probably the best one, actually. I played RuneScape back when I was in like elementary school, so that's probably over 15 years now, probably. So anyway, gathering is basically chopping trees or, you know, gathering meat and bloods, everything else. So life skilling is generally, I would consider, more chill, and usually it's competitive, but at the same time, when you're PvEing and grinding, you also run into other people, and sometimes you duel for spot, and, you know, sometimes, you know, you're like super sweaty, trying, like, having all the best gear and everything. So generally, life skilling, very casual. It could be competitive depending on if you're playing the market game, which you might be, but for the most part, if you were to grind an hour at a grind spot, you could grind as many hours as you want, like in theory. Some life skills are actually capped by your energy, like gathering. You use your energy and you can only gather for that long until you get more energy. So ultimately, it's a little bit different. Grinding, I've always said that life skills should be buffed, and for the most part, all of them, but I think some are a lot better than the others. So I think that as a beginner, gathering is probably the most entry level life skill you should do, because like when you gather materials, you can open up other life skillings. Like let's say you collect meat from animals or chop trees, you can do cooking and processing, or if you get bloods, it's alchemy. So one thing leads to another for profit, and you don't have to play a meta class. Well, you don't have to really for grinding either, but people who min-max for PvE or PvP usually play the Flavor of the Month class. When it comes to life skilling, it's not really the same, because the meta for life skilling is playing the class that gets from point A to B the fastest, and most people just don't care. So I mean, like, a lot of the time for various life skills is kind of AFK. Not all of them, but I would say a majority of them are. So as a beginner, what would you do? Start gathering. And then let's talk about this, because I might use some terms that people might not get. So for example, you're gathering, right? And let's look at these timbers. We'll call these tier 1 materials because it's very easy to get, and this is what you're going to have a majority of. If you process these timbers, you can get planks, and those were going to be called tier 2 materials because you process tier 1s to get tier 2s, and then they either sell more or use for various things. And then if you process the planks, you get plywood, which is tier 3 materials. You can use that for more crafting and or more profit for later on stuff. And then there's a tier 4, but most people don't do that because it just goes out of the way and it's not really as profitable. But anyway, besides the point. So yeah, there's a lot of things you're going to want to do. And as you guys see right now, what we are doing is just processing. And it's more of an AFK activity. I'll just talk briefly about each one of them. So entry level, save the materials from gathering. You could either use it for cooking, alchemy, processing, and all the other stuff, or you could just sell it on the market for quick, easy silver. Depends on what you like doing, and what you plan on doing is how you make profit. And it's very hard to tell you what is the most profitable thing, because if I told you that and everyone does it, suddenly it's no longer profitable anymore, right? It makes sense. So yeah, it's one of those things. There's a lot of guides and, well, not really guides, but like sites that do calculators. And if you have X materials, it will tell you which materials can be used to craft this thing, and you just look at how much profit are you making from material A and B and C and so on. So it's one of those things where you really have to figure it out. And even if I told you what it was, which I don't even know, because it changes pretty regularly. Once one person catches on, suddenly just prices go up and down. So that's wild. Everyone knows what fishing is. It's basically the golden standard life skill in every RPG game I've ever played. What makes this different than the other ones? Well, the spots you fish can actually get you more items that are rare, and like some places are more profitable, some places aren't. Some get you certain materials that you'll use to turn into other ones. And admittedly, I don't really know all of them, but I would say for the most part, 99% of fishing players are AFK. So it's one of those things where in BDO, I always tell people to be doing something. And let's say, I don't know, don't just stand there in town doing nothing. Do something like what I'm doing right now. I'm processing stuff, just talking about various life skills. So yeah, a lot of things are AFK in this game or semi. And that means like, I don't know, you start doing something and then go make lunch, and then 15 minutes later you check it and reset it, so on. I think hunting is a very good life skill because it makes a lot of silver and it's pretty fun. It's sort of like gathering, but with different materials that turn into different things. But basically it's like gathering, but a more targeted for specific things. Hunting is, I think it's a very good life skill. However, it does require a little bit of a setup first. So like, for example, like you're going into, I guess, how do I describe this? You could go in from beginner 1 to like the end game hunting spot, but you would also need to have a little bit of a like setup and the gear early on prepared to do it. But I don't think hunting is locked by anything. If you want to do the basic beginner quest to do it, by all means, it'll get you there. And then it's one of those things that's high profit, but high bar to entry. Cooking, very standard. Take your materials, turn it into various things. There's like literally thousands of recipes of things you can make in this game. What you make depends on what materials you have, and how much profit you'll have is based on a lot of things. But anyway, alchemy, same thing as cooking, but with various different ingredients to make potions and everything. So processing, what you're seeing right now, like get various materials and then turn it into tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Training is basically raising horses, and when you level horses, they get skills and everything else. And then I actually think training is very profitable, but it's also one of those things where it only starts to become profitable once you are near the end game. But I mean, admittedly, training is one of my least done life skills, but at the same time, it's like once you get to a certain point, you know what to do. It's just how much do you enjoy doing it. After that, trading, take a material from town A to town B. The profit is how much distance from point A to point B is. And this is a dead life skill. I don't know why Pearl Abyss decides they don't want to buff it, because it used to be good back in the day, like 5 years ago. And it was pretty decent silver when making like 15, 20 million silver an hour was good. Nowadays, people are making billions of silver an hour, and trading is still 20 to 30 mil an hour. So yeah, that's one thing that needs to be buffed. It used to be good back in the day. Is it now? No. So I just wouldn't recommend doing it until they skyrocket the price of everything. Farming, pretty standard. It's actually not that interesting at all, but it gives you materials to go do training and get the better horses. So you see how they're all connected one way or the other? That's where a lot of things come in. And sailing and bartering. This is actually the most unique life skills of the game, in fact. And you know how we talked about PvE gear, PvP gear, life skill gear? So you do need life skill gear for sailing. But on top of that, your goal is to make the best boat and get the best boat gear. And the best boat gear is actually the equivalent of, well, not equivalent, but like near the same level of difficulty as getting your highest PvP, PvE, and life skill gear. So it's like 2 steps at once, where you have to get life skill gear and then get the best boat you can. If you are planning on doing any sort of sailing and bartering, I would recommend doing it on another character. I do that too. That's why this skill is not still only skill 10. But the reasoning why I've always said to do various life skills on different characters is because, let's say you're in a town somewhere, right? And let's say you're all the way at the bottom in Odraxia, right? And suddenly you wanted to do some sailing. It's probably going to take you like 10 minutes to get from down here to the ocean over here. So what you would do is have another character, and let's say your boat is at Ilia Island. You can just instantly start sailing, and it's just generally good. So life skills I would recommend doing on alt characters, or just have like separate characters on, is maybe gathering, but that also depends on like how much weight and everything you have, weight and inventory. So if you only play one character, this one's going to be a little bit tricky, because obviously you want to do gathering on the character where you have max weight and everything, so you can just do it longer and everything. So yeah. Hunting is definitely one that I would recommend doing on another character, because right now you can hunt in a lot of areas, but there's really only one good spot to be. So I have a video of this myself. The best hunting spot right now is probably in the Narcion area down here by Odraxia. And generally that's the best way to power level it, and this is just the best place to be. There's sniper hunting, but I admittedly don't really have too much experience with that, so I can't say. I heard it was pretty decent with the Land of the Morning Light, so it could be good. So I've always said hunting was pretty good. But yeah, that's definitely one I would recommend doing on another character. Cooking, alchemy, and processing. I would do all of these on the same character you do your gathering on, because the more weight and inventory you have just makes it so much easier, which for me would be my main. But if you have multiple characters with the same amount of weight, inventory, and everything, I would just recommend doing all of those on the same one. Training doesn't matter. Once you start doing training on one character, I'd probably recommend staying on that one, because getting training levels is time consuming. And so like you don't really want to do it again, and you just make less profit when you keep redoing it. So just pick one character and then stick to it for that one. Trading, dead life skill, but also doesn't matter. And if you wanted to do it for the memes, pick one character and stay on it. Farming, do it on the same character as you're gathering and all that stuff. Selling and bartering, definitely on a different character. So yeah, of all the life skills and grinding stuff we talked about, if there's anything to take away from this, is you can grind circles and kill enemies basically infinitely if you wanted to. Some life skills are locked by energy, so that means that you can only do it for a certain amount of time. If I were to give you a general idea, I have 576 energy with the crystals in it. And all of this, assuming I don't use energy potions and everything, is probably about like an hour, maybe. Yeah, depending if I use Agris and have the gathering mini games on, probably an hour at most. And so basically the way everything works is there's two different styles of gear for your PvP, PvE, and life skilling. And the way it works in a nutshell is there's life skill XP and then there's mastery. Life skill XP allows you to go up into different tiers, which is like beginner, skilled, professional, artisan, master, and then guru. The higher the tiers, the more profit you make. And the higher mastery allows you to do things more efficiently. So let's say you are at the highest tier, which is guru. So you're basically getting the max procs of gathering, for example. So how do I explain this to a beginner? If you are a beginner 1 and you chop a tree down, you'll probably get 1 wood, right? If you are a guru gathering, you could get between 1 to like 16 wood or something. And then that's the difference between life skill XP. And the difference in mastery is the rare drops that you would get on the side. So it's not like you're just getting wood on the side, you're getting like multiple items. And so you just hover over every life skill to see what mastery does. But basically, once you get to guru, you want to start pushing more into mastery up to 2000, which is the cap. And yeah, that's basically life skilling in a nutshell. The gear works differently than all the other ones. So hopefully you guys got a basic intro to grinding and life skilling. As a recap, grinding silver and killing enemies in circles for hours is always, well, not always, but like 95% of the time going to be more silver for a majority of players. The 5% of people who are making top tier money, the life skills to be doing are probably cooking and hunting. If you know how to do gathering properly, it's a lot of silver. But you also, it's more like it's not a 1-to-1 hour in a lot of silver. It's more consistent silver. So yeah, if you just want the most money you can make in 1 hour, that would be grinding. If you want a consistent like 500 mil a day or something, even more, that was just a number I'm throwing out, without putting in as much effort, life skilling is definitely the way. But at the end of the day, just do what you enjoy, and this is a sandbox game, so hopefully you find something you like and then just keep doing it. So it's not like you can only do one thing or the other. You can do basically everything in this game. So yeah, if you have any questions, be sure to drop it in the comments. I'm happy to help all of you guys out. And yeah, I'll leave a lot of links in the descriptions to various videos that might be useful, such as the best grinding spots for silver, XP, and other things, or my favorite gathering spots, how to do various other life skills, sailing and bartering, how to get the best boats, best hunting place, and everything. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'd love to see you guys come back, and I am out. Peace.